Section 14, we start with a pluperfect verb. We had stopped scarcely, or we scarcely had stopped. And as always, we imply a form of sum when needed. So here for our next nominative, night, we'll just add an erat to stay consistent with the tense. So there was night. But not your normal type of night. He says, not of the sort, non-qualis, moonless, or clouded. So the non-qualis is setting up this comparative clause in contrast to the night that was now upon them. So not of the moonless or clouded type, but, said qualis, but of the type in a enclosed place, or place having been enclosed, with the light having been extinguished. So imagine being in a windowless room within your house, turning off all the lights. That level of darkness is sort of a deeper darkness than just your normal dark night outside, is really the contrast that he's trying to make. Audires, you would have heard the, I guess we'll say the wailings. This is the noun form of the verb that we saw in Virgil in Book 4, when Dido and Aeneas were in the cave. So we'd say the wailings of women. The screams of infants. And the shouts or yellings of the men. So he's really trying to just sort of distinguish between the different noises you'd be hearing from adult women, adult men, and then particularly children. So for these three nouns, you can pick sort of any appropriate English noun that would sort of fit that division for the sake of giving you that broad spectrum of the sounds to heighten the drama. All right, so then we're going to have a bunch of different types of generic people that you would have commonly seen there if you had been there with Pliny. Some are going to do one thing, others are going to be doing another thing, and still others for the third alii. So some were seeking, and we're going to repeat this verb now 3 times. Some were seeking parents. Alii were seeking children, liberos, and still others, alii, were seeking their spouses. And then we have the ablative of means. They were seeking their lost family members with their voices. And they were recognizing, will imply the direct object of their family members or whoever it was they were looking for, by means of their voices. It's too dark to really see anything. And then we'll have another type of contrast with these type of people and then those type of people. So there was this type of people who were pitying. This is a deponent verb. Were pitying their own misfortune. And then for the ilii, you'll say, and those type of people who were pitying, and we'll repeat the same noun, kosum, as the direct object a second time, the misfortune, but this time with a different genitive, of their own people. So the first type pitying his own misfortune, the other type pitying the misfortune of their own, meaning more like their family members, their loved ones, their friends, etc. Erant, there were those who were praying, another deponent verb, for death on account of the fear of death. Metu with the genitive mortis. This would be an ablative of cause. And the verb is subjunctive, because this is a relative clause of characteristic. So he's giving us the broad overview of the qui, the type of person who would be the sort to pray for their death on account of the fear of death. So rather than one particular person that he's singling out from this memory. Many people, multi. And then here's another historical infinitive. We're lifting their hands to the gods, ad deos. But more people, plures, were understanding or explaining or taking the view for interprebantur, and that's going to set up an indirect statement. They were taking the view that never nusquam, never now were there, essay. Just going to add this as our verb of the indirect statement here. Nor were there ever any ulos deos, any gods ever. And actually, nusquam is a little bit ambiguous. My gut reaction is often to translate that as never. Most likely based on sort of the common worldview of the Romans at that time, you could probably say anywhere, because it can mean sort of never in the temporal sense or anywhere in the physical sense. So sort of no gods were to sort of be found at that place for intervention. I think that's more likely than sort of the general declaration that they never existed. There's not much evidence that the Romans had really sort of considered an atheist worldview at this time. And the other thing that they were understanding or explaining or interpreting from that main verb is that illam noctam, that night, and then we have the et and the que, so sort of the double conjunction, was both everlasting and the most final. For the world, or upon the world. Nor were those people absent, nor were they absent, and he's kind of making this general declaration of those types of people, who increased or caused to rise true dangers, vera pericula, by false and deceitful. Fictus is more just a more neutral statement of truth versus falsity, and the second word has certainly sort of an intention to deceive or make false, lie. So by false and deceitful, and that actually modifies terrors. I think this terrors is a word that is supposed to invoke, obviously, all types of lies that are meant to cause fear. So nor were those ones absent who increased true dangers by false and deceitful terrors. Aud erant, there were those present who, falso is going to be our adverb, falsely said credentibus, but to believing people were announcing. And then everything else is going to be indirect statement. So there were those who at Mencium were falsely announcing, but to believing peoples, that, and then the illid is going to be our first subject of the indirect statement, that place had collapsed, and that place was burning. Try to take that from the top one more time yourself right now. That should only take another minute or two when it's this fresh in your mind. It's good review, and you'll be well prepared for the next quiz or test.